I am currently interviewing Mr. Michael R.Garrison, licensed mortician and funeral director. He embalms for John L. Williams Funeral Directors, as well as other funeral homes. He is also working on opening his own funeral home, which is Michael R.Garrison Funeral Services, which he is currently wearing on his head at this time. So I'm going to interview him. The first question is, what made you go into funeral industry?
At a very young age, I became curious about death after the passing of my uncle. I approached the casket and I was watching, and as a kid would be thinking it was breathing, stuff like that. So upon touching him, I was kind of figure out how they was able to do that. What was the process? And that carried over into my adult life, and now here I am.
Can you discuss some of your best and worst experiences that you've had?
I would say some of my best experiences is dealing with families, and that could be some of the worst. Also, some parts of the educational process.
What was your past experiences with apprentice training?
There, you hit from the second question. With the apprenticeship training, I believe that who's ever taken on the apprentice should give them a thorough education as to the beginning process and the end process. What do I mean by that? A lot of people go and they want to make sure they know how to embalm, and they get you locked into the embalming room area. No, you have to give them all the experience, even the front office. Depending on who you go with, they don't want to see your numbers. I don't know why they're shy like that or what the problem is, but you need to give that apprentice the full experience, the full volume of what their expectations are, so that their valuation as they leave from the apprenticeship program and enter into licensee, that they're able to fully give what is expected of them.
Agreed. What are your thoughts on the changes in the funeral profession, and how are you adapting to them?
Whatever changes come down the pike, in Maryland anyway, since it's so regulated, we just have to go with the flow. If you're not serious about your work, you just move on. But since I'm serious about serving the families and things of that nature, I have to go with whatever is voted in. Not to say that I like every law there is. For one, I don't like the way they go about starting the business. I feel like I can go out here and I can get a license for this, that, and the other and start a business. With the funeral industry, is so much regulation into getting started in the business.
So the next question was, what are your thoughts and changes in the law, and what about the changes in OSHA? Since you've already answered the questions about the law, can you piggyback on what the changes in OSHA and how you feel about the changes in OSHA?
I've been in industry, not just this industry, but other industries, and OSHA laws are pretty much standard. You know, it's all about safety, pretty much so. And you can never be too cautious when you're dealing with bloodborne pathogens or things like that. So I'm pretty much a safety buff. So I'll go along with it as long as it's, you know, it's looking in the best interest of my life and those around me.
The next question is, what is something in school you learned you continue to use?
You have to have a certain demeanor to do this job. And you can't just enter them for the money. Now, I'd be a fool if I said that I wasn't thinking about the money, because that all comes hand in hand. But my first foremost thought is death is a really, really tough experience for people. And if I can enlighten it in any way, that's what I like best about it. That was the greatest experience.
The next question is, what qualities do you think are most important for a funeral director to have?
Again, we have to be empathetic. We have to be compassionate. We have to have an understanding that grief is something that is approached differently by each individual. So that being stated and said, you have to be able to accept whatever comes down the line. You've also set a standard for the family. I know you're grieving. Don't take it out on me, but you have to be able to relay that. You have to be able, the communication skills have to be at their greatest effort for you to get them to understand that you're there to help them and not to hinder.
The next question is, based on your experience, what do you think needs to be different or addressed in funeral service?
One of the things that I really constantly try to address is the way we receive the deceased. When we get them from the hospitals and things like that, they're not cleaned and they leave the equipment on them. Now, according to OSHA law, we're supposed to have the least amount of exposure to bloodborne as possible. So why aren't the hospitals doing like they used to do? When somebody come out of the operating room, you take all that equipment and you throw it away. Don't bag it up and give it to the morticians. We're not your throwaway guys. We have a job to do as well, and we want to do it with the least amount of exposure as possible. So that's my biggest pet peeve.
The next question is, how do you think COVID and the pandemic affected funeral industry?
Well, I don't think it affected the industry no different than HIV and what's ensuing now, monkeypox. We have to have a SOP for that, which is we have to continue to believe everything is contaminated, so we have to dress accordingly. We have to make ourselves safe. So that coming into play was just like another plague hitting the industry. We had to learn about it. We had to know how to deal with it. And basically, we're dealing with everything the same way. Universal caution.
Universal precautions. Okay, and the last question is, how do you deal with burnout?
I serve a higher power. I'll be perfectly honest with you. In not hospital, but in college, you hit that brick wall, and you just have to find a way to push through it. And burnout, that's a part of the same thing. Sometimes you got to step back. Me, I'm a person, I take a vacation 2-3 times a year. You can't be so engulfed into your business that you're scared to miss a dollar that you don't recreate yourself. So that would be my best answer for anybody that's doing it. You have to take time out for self, because we take on all that grieving, so where we put it at? It becomes stress. It burns you out. So what do? You spend time with family, spend time with self. Uplift yourself and just know that you're human just like anybody else. So I haven't had that problem with stresses or burnout because I know how to release that energy.
All right. Well, Mr. Garrison, that concludes our interview. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.